Now, streamers have shared the first look at Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, which has been 5 years in development. Now, there's two parts to it, but there's the DMZ of the game, which includes a mode inspired by Escape from Tarkov. Now, Activision have said that during each match, several strongholds will be activated around the map, and squads can visit these areas to fight AA combatants. The first team to complete a stronghold must disarm a bomb and will earn a key to Black Site and their custom loadout. Successive teams must eliminate a specific number of defenders, AI or different players, and will earn their custom loadout but not a Black Site key. So, if this sounds a little bit up your street, then obviously, of course, we didn't get a brand new Call of Duty game this year, so we've had Modern Warfare 2, and now we've got Warzone 2.0. Now, I'm joined in the studio with James Wright, an editor here at Jinx. And James, what do you think to this brand new Warzone game?
I'm looking forward to it just because it's something fresh and original. I know it's kind of aping a little bit on what Escape from Tarkov's done.
Yeah.
But as enjoyable as kind of Warzone 2.0 will probably be, I'm more interested to see how this new mode shapes out.
Absolutely. I mean, how do you feel because I watched the clip and the AI is quite prominent, and I think there's a lot of times that like, oh, the AI's come in and it's coming in. So how do you feel about that coming in the mix with COD? I
mean, I think it's refreshing. Like, there's only so much they can kind of rely on everyone to kind of do their part to make it interesting. So I think the AI part will be kind of, especially if they kind of build on it in the same way Escape from Tarkov has done, where there's kind of quests and missions and there's kind of characters within that. It's not just AI bots for the sake of it, but there's kind of a bit more to it.
Do you think this is going to mix it up from the previous Warzone game? Do you think it's going to be a nice little difference?
Yeah, I mean, especially because you look at like maybe one of their main competitors in Battlefield, they attempted something very similar for when they released 2042 last year. It was a mode called Hazard Zone.
Okay.
And it just flopped. It didn't do well. People weren't that keen on it. But I don't think people were that keen on Battlefield 2042 at the best of times. But they've already, I think 6 months down the line, have basically said we're not developing any new content for Hazard Zone. It's more or less a dead mode. So to have Warzone do their interpretation on it, I think it's definitely better having a competitor to at least rival Escape from Tarkov, as opposed to Escape from Tarkov being the only kind of available type of game if that's the kind of mode you want to play.
Do you think we're going to see some of these kind of, as with Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2.0, do you think this is kind of setting us up for when they do bring out a full-on new Call of Duty game? Do you think we're going to see a couple of these elements leaking into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think lots of people have looked at Escape from Tarkov for a number of years and said, like, that looks like a really good model and a really good opportunity, but no one's yet really made the leap. As I mentioned, Battlefield did, and it flopped hard, and to the point where they've basically gone back to the drawing board and said, we're not going to develop new content for this. So having a company like Activision and all the resources they've got, which they have lots of, I'm sure that if they put enough energy into it, they'll be able to kind of come up with their own kind of refreshing take on it. And yeah, I think people enjoy it.
Absolutely. I mean, are you wanting to play it? Does that make you want to give it a go, James?
Yeah, I mean, like, I enjoy Warzone, but I think it'll be a bit more refreshing to kind of play something a little bit different, where it's a little bit more tactical. There's a little, and as like I mentioned, if you look at the way Escape from Tarkov has kind of evolved over the years, there's kind of missions and quests and like little story beats that are kind of worked into the actual main game, having that kind of element of risk reward, like what are you going to take into DMZ, and if you die then obviously you'll lose all those kind of possessions. I think that's a new kind of element that just adds a bit more, I don't know, interest to the game, whereas Warzone, you could jump in and very quickly you could just, it's kind of inconsequential whether or not you die in the first couple of minutes because you just boot up a completely fresh game, whereas at least with DMZ, you really have to think about what you're doing a little bit more, and it's a little bit more risky. It's like, okay, am I going to take this in? Am I not going to do this? I think it's just refreshing, like I said.
And how do you think this kind of like takes it away and differs from playing in, say, campaign mode? What are the kind of differences there, would you say?
I mean, campaign's more cinematic.
Yes.
It's more about that kind of Hollywood-esque feel that you might get from watching a big film on like the big screen. Whereas I think kind of at least if they go down the same route as kind of what Escape from Tarkov has done, like I said, it's more like little small story beats that are kind of just littered throughout the game. In the same way that you might see with something like Destiny, where they'll just have little bits of lore dropped in here, there and everywhere across the game. I think they could probably afford to do that a little bit more on the DMZ mode, and I think they tried to do that to a degree with Warzone, but it's very difficult to enjoy the story side to it in Warzone because it's so fast paced and the circles enclosing and you've got people coming from every direction.
Yes, intense.
It just, I don't know, I think it works a little bit better because at least with DMZ, if it goes down that same kind of route, it's a little bit slower.
Yeah.
You can take your time with it a little bit more and you can maybe appreciate those story beats a bit better.
Yeah, it's having that little bit of pressure, isn't it? I think, do you think that's what like Call of Duty does quite well, is adds a bit of pressure, which I think adds to the adrenaline in the gameplay, doesn't it, if you have that little bit of pressure?
Yeah, I think Warzone, in a way, I think mirrors the multiplayer side of the game quite well in that it's always very fast-paced, quick.
Yes, yeah.
You look at something like Battlefield where it's much bigger maps and it's more about kind of getting across the fit, and it's not quite the same, whereas Call of Duty multiplayer has always been kind of very frantic, and I think that suits a battle royale like Warzone. But DMZ, it would be better if they can at least have just a different like change of pace.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a few more reviews on that, and I'm sure, like, as well, if you have seen anything as well and you want to get involved with our socials, do the hashtag Daily Portal. Let us know what you're thinking if you've checked out some of Warzone 2.0.